Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure. I'm Jeff Arbuckle. With me, as always, Chuck Moore. Chuck.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
All right. You know, that's good. And also with us, Jason Oliver. Jason.
Hey, I'm a berserker.
I was thinking about saying, there goes Jason. He's a berserker. Anyway,
berserker.
Chuck, did he say making fuck? Anyway, this week we are talking about Kevin Smith's debut film, 1994's Clerks. We're staying in 1994. Pretty sweet spot here. I was a senior in high school when this came out. I did not see it until the following summer. But yeah, this is what we're talking about here. Last week we did 1994's Pulp Fiction. Now we're doing another movie released right about the same time in general release. And both were at Cannes, weren't they?
No, Clerks was at Sundance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But both of these released around the same time to the public, and both, I think, kind of generationally key, particularly to the Gen X set.
Yeah, this is very Gen X. This movie.
This movie's interesting to me because every time I'm going to watch it for any reason, I'm like, I'm not going to like it this time. Like, I don't know why that is. I think it's because I feel like it's stuck in time or stuck in a place, or that like I've grown too much.
Yeah.
And then every time I watch it, I'm like, this is just fucking funny.
Yeah.
And then there's a nuance to it that I didn't pick up on before about life.
Yeah.
That is like kind of baked into it. So it's a testament to this movie that I think I'm going to dislike it or not like it as much. And every time I'm like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Jason, I wanted to kind of get your take on it because, you know, I mean, like, did you have basically the same kind of concern, or did you fear that it would age poorly? I'm kind of curious.
I did have concern, but I don't know. Like, I'm one of those people who has kind of stuck with the View Askew universe for better or worse. Mm-hmm. Like, I've watched everything Kevin Smith has made in this realm. Even the last, what was it, Clerks 3 that came out a couple years ago, which I thought was okay. I feel like a part of this, part of the story that Kevin Smith has been telling over the last 30 years hasn't matured at the same level I have. I feel like there's a core audience of his that is a little bit in Arrested Development that maybe he recognizes and he's trying to pull out of. So it doesn't always work for me, you know, the later films. But going back and watching this movie, I mean, yeah, this was fucking me.
Yeah.
This was me in 1998, really. I mean, 4 years later, this was me in 1998. Like 100%. Like, yeah, I'm fucking Randall in this movie. And I'm also Dante. You know,
that's one of the things that, like, there's a lot of nuance here, right? Like, because, like, I think, Chuck, you kind of pick up on that concept of, like, what is this life? You know, what is this life at this time when they're in this movie at the age of 20 or whatever they are? You know, and then when it goes forward to Clerks 2, what are they like at that point? And then what are they like at Clerks 3? Because there's so many years in between each one of those movies. You're picking these two characters up at different times in their lives. Now, right. I know that's hit or miss for some people, but sure. Chuck, you're right. I think that there is something that Kevin Smith was like kind of baking into this. And then he's like, I can expand on it with these two characters in particular.
Right. Because they had a future to expound on, for sure. Yeah. I have not. In all honesty, I've not seen Clerks 3. I saw Clerks 2 once. I think my general perceived feeling of this movie over time has kept me away from other stuff in the universe. But after watching this, I'm like, maybe I should go check those out because I stayed away for whatever reason. And I like Kevin Smith. Like, I like Dogma. Mallrats is fantastic. But like Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, I was like, am I really that interested in seeing this stuff?
The Jay and Silent Bob stuff and the Clerk stuff is it's a little bit pandering to the base, and it's a little bit like too personal to Kevin Smith, right? Like it doesn't speak to a generation anymore, in my opinion. It speaks to his experiences, which is fine. That's okay. But Clerks is unique in that it was a voice of a generation. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
I mean, this is right there with Slacker, Richard Linklater's Slacker, which this was inspired by. I mean, it touched a nerve. This movie did.
Yeah, I think because it's really kind of interesting because like we've kind of touched upon this in other movies before. We've talked about it a little bit with like Five Easy Pieces, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the concept of what is expected of you, right? The concept of every generation has something that's expected of them. And for a long time, that expectation has been stagnant, right? It's you've got to go to work, you've got to be good at work, and if you're good at work, you're going to excel in life. And I think this movie expresses the frustration that a lot of people in our generation had, which was all of those expectations are bullshit. And all of the ways that people are treating each other in certain in certain statuses and certain transactional situations is not healthy and it's not good. And I'm sure we'll kind of, I'm sure I'll get more into that here in a little bit, but like, this is a movie that I saw it. So the day after I graduated from high school, I started working at a video store. My oldest brother was the manager of that video store. I wanted to work there, but I didn't want to work there until after I finished high school because I knew there would be late nights involved. In fact, that was probably even something my mom told him. It's like, nah, you got to wait until I can work late nights. And probably about the second or third day, there was an individual named Chris that worked there. I don't think you knew him, Jason, but he was a little bit Randall and a little bit Jay in the sense that, I'm pretty sure he was dealing shit out the back door, but he was also like very quick to basically go off on a customer.
Ironically, Jay is not the one I can relate to in this, being named Jason, but I knew a couple people that were Jay.
Right. Oh yeah, everybody. Yeah, they were all over the place. But but like he was like basically it's like if you're going to survive in this job, you have to watch this movie. And he's like, you're not leaving here until you rent this movie and go home and watch it. It's like, okay. I watched it. I'm like, that's great. However, what he wanted me to get out of it is not what I got out of it. He wanted me to be a jaded Randall type.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, you got to have the tough skin to deal with all the idiots that come in here. And, I don't like to think of any customer as an idiot because like oftentimes I'm also a customer, it's like when I'm not at work, I'm a customer someplace, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm an idiot because I have a question about something that I don't know the obvious answer for, or whatever, even if it's an obvious answer. But, the jaded nature of that is, what I think he thought I should get out of that in order to be a video store clerk. And I'm like, no, there's more to this than that.
Well, I still quote, this would be a great job for the customers.
Well, sure, because it's a funny line.
And it's also true. But but there would also be no job, and that's the joke. But no, I was 100% Randall at one point in my life with this movie. Not immediately. Like when I first saw this movie and I was working at VH1, I loved working at VH1. I loved helping people find the movie that I thought that they would love to watch. Right? I remember talking to people and like asking them questions and like legitimately trying to curate their evening. Right? That's fun. That's good stuff. But I did get jaded the longer I worked in video stores, especially working at Blockbuster. Like it was so soul sucking. So I did become Randall.
It depends on the customer too, though. Sorry, go ahead.
But I was also like working at Big Choice Video. Yeah. That's not as great as Randall thinks. But then I also like at a certain point in time, you become Randall at the end of this movie when you realize the problem is not your job. The problem is the choices that you make, the mentality that you have, feeling sorry for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like Randall is the best character in this movie because he's immature, but he recognizes his faults by the end of the movie, and he tries to snap Dante out of it by the end of the movie, right?
Yeah,
Dante doesn't grow enough, but he has growth too.
Yeah, I mean, like they're two halves of a complete person.
And I was 100% Dante in like 1998, 99, 2000. I mean, I was absolutely Dante. I was fucking moron, right? About relationships. I was very immature about things, right? I had that girl in my life who could disrupt everything in my life because she was paying attention to me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's Dante to a T. Like, yeah. To say I relate to both these characters.
She could make you move across the country.
Yes, she sure could. I relate to both these characters immensely for the time when I saw this movie. Yeah. Yeah. And for that period of my life, I look back on when I watched this movie, I was like, holy shit, I am both of these characters. When I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, that's me. Yep.
What's interesting about this movie to me, and Jeff, you were bringing up expectations, societal, whatever. There's like no adult voice in this movie telling the characters what they should be. So it's like self-perception driven, and maybe there's some taken in from the adults in their lives, but there isn't a single adult voice in this movie telling anyone what they should be doing.
But there is expectation that they do something the way, it's like the whole
but I think
customer
it's like
is always right sort of thing. Because there's several times they get, like Dante in particular takes a lot of heat from people when Randall welcomes it, right? Because he initiates that, right? But whereas like Dante from time to time is dealing with people who are like, like he has Rick Darris come in and he's like, oh, you just sit behind a counter all day. You don't work out. You're not, and it's like he's looked at as a slacker and therefore less than the personality who goes out there. Even his own girlfriend wants him to go back to college to be something better than what she perceives a clerk to be. Right.
That's peer to peer though. Like,
sure.
Yeah. Like that's my point. It's peer to peer. It's not an adult. I mean, they're adults. In reality, I will say when we worked at the Music Trader, we were all a bunch of Randalls to the customers, but we were Dantes to each other. Or actually, we were more like Randalls to each other too, because we all cared about each other. And we all gave each other good advice or tried to give each other good advice. But life experience only gives you so much at that age. So your advice is only worth so much. So it's just interesting to hear you say, Jason, that Randall grew in this. I don't feel like he did.
I think he did.
I feel like he's always known this stuff.
Maybe, but I think he grows by watching. He
learns by others' mistakes almost.
In a way, yeah. I think he learns something about himself by seeing what he doesn't like in Dante. Right?
Right.
Because he has that whole blow up at the end. And I think part of that is him chiding himself, right? We're not better than these people, right? We're the ones who are working these shitty jobs, right?
But he also says he's comfortable in his, and
well,
Dante is not.
there takes a certain amount of maturity to be able to say that I'm comfortable with my foibles, right? And I understand my limitations. I understand where I can improve, or where I need to improve, or where I'm fine being where I'm at. Dante has none of that. Like, he is always projecting his issues onto the other people. I'm not even supposed to be here today. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to have a hockey game. The fucker didn't show up for work. And, he's always blaming other people for the problems that he has. Whereas Randall knows that he creates his own problems.
Yeah. Yes. And where Dante is concerned is he uses responsibilities as a cross to carry, but when it's something he really wants to do, he's more than happy to throw those responsibilities to the side. Yeah.
Right. It's like
he's kind of a hypocrite, right?
Well, yeah, because
and that's what ultimately where Randall calls him out on.
Right, because it's like Randall, which is funny because like there's a whole thing about like how Dante is trying to get back with an ex-girlfriend while still falling back on his current girlfriend if he doesn't get that opportunity, right? Which is totally not anything a mature person would ever or should ever do.
Right.
But
it's totally not something all of us have probably done in our life.
We've all done
either.
this. Yeah, we've all done this. And and at the same time, Randall is trying to initiate, like, you've got to shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's like, if you want Caitlin, you get Caitlin. If you want Ronnie, then you stay with Veronica. And so what he does is, once he finds out that Dante is going to have a date with Caitlin, he just tells Veronica that it's over for him.
Yeah.
And this episode's going to be like 15 minutes because you're already there.
No, well, but I mean, I'm just saying it's like it informs there's no real plot in this movie. It's just just 16 hours.
It's a series of events with a through line.
Yep. Another chapter movie too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And they all mean something, and they're all like, they all have something to do, not just with the scene, but just like the juxtaposition of the client and the service person, the malaise of the service person, and the general boredom of life, and when you're at a certain age, you're just bored with life and you're stuck in a rut, Yeah. But anyway, so he's trying to, he is forcing Dante to get off the pot. Right. And of course, meanwhile, everything, kind of goes to shit also. But at the same time, this is also the shit that Dante is laid too. Right. It's not, it's like, yeah, maybe Randall has taken on too much responsibility to help you move forward with something for once. But at the same time, you've kind of created this mess anyway. But anyway, so the movie begins with Dante getting a call, and he falls out of the closet, which always cracks me up. It's like, he was up so late the night before, he just fell asleep in his closet, and and then he wait a minute, what
happened?
Oh my god.
Sorry, in true Clerks form, I was looking at the Wikipedia page and I saw that fellatio was a
link in Wikipedia.
Was a link. So I clicked. I didn't click on it. I just did the highlight, and it's an illustration of a naked woman blowing a penis, like what fellatio is. And so I took a screenshot of that with Clerks, the poster and the whole like Wikipedia page, and sent it to Chuck and Jeff because that just feels right.
That's right. That's just right. And also, it's colloquially known as teabagging. Also,
yes, that's when you get into the scrotum play. I think is where they talk about the teabagging. Yes,
that's great.
Yeah.
So Dante, who closed the night before at the Quick Stop place.
Dickopedia? Is this Dickopedia?
Dickopedia.
Sorry, go ahead.
He answers the call from his boss saying that the person who was supposed to open that morning was supposed to be there. He called in sick, And Dante needs to go in and open the store. To which Dante, it's kind of funny because, again, he doesn't have to. He fucking doesn't have to. And yet he does. And then he proceeds to blame it on everything. He blames all of the problems on not even supposed to be working that day, when the fact of the matter is he didn't have to go in.
Oh, yeah. He has a persecution complex.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's a martyr or a martyr. He's a martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Is
so
that the same thing as a persecution complex?
Yeah, basically. It's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you could also say he probably also is a little bit of a Job, too. He does everything right, but something always comes along and ruins it for him.
Yeah, but he didn't lose his whole family and have to work at the store. Come on.
Yeah, but he lost 2 girlfriends, though, probably.
Uh,
But anyway, he also lost his hockey game. He lost enough, Chuck.
he lost his ball. I don't know if he lost his hockey game.
Well, no, he lost the other guy's ball. But they have the biggest pair you've ever seen down there on the ground level. If you want.
Oh
to go
my
to
gosh.
Anyway, so he goes in, and the day starts. So he has to go in. It's like dawn, right? It's like 6 a.m. that he has to go in. The gum is in the lock, so he can't open up the shutter. So he has to make a sign that says,
I assure you we're open.
And that's a through line for the rest of the movie. He smells like shoe polish.
Yeah.
Because
and
that's
people
how he made
asking, are you open?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so he, there's like so many little things also about him opening up. It's like they very clearly show that he knows what he's doing. Like he is a skilled convenience store worker. Like he knows he's got to get the coffee ready. He's got to go get the papers. But the way he gets the papers is great.
That's great. Yeah.
And he takes
They
a quarter.
didn't get their delivery or whatever. So he takes a quarter, puts it in the machine to buy one paper. He takes all the papers.
And then he gets the quarterback.
Yeah, he gets the quarterback.
He gets the quarterback.
He's like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, things are looking up today.
Yeah, everything's coming up, Dante.
Except they're not.
They're not, and they really don't if you look at the original ending.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So anyway, he opens the store, and basically the first customer who comes in is a guy who buys a coffee and he wants to just sit there and drink it at the counter.
Oh man, Chuli's gum.
This is funny.
Every single person who comes in always wants a pack of smokes. And so he comes, the first guy comes in, it's like, hey, I want a pack of smokes. And he's like, are you sure? He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, he pulls out this thing out of this medical bag. And it's like a fucking rotting, like diseased lung.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what happens if you start smoking. How long have you been smoking? Since I was about 13. He's like, oh, that's about what, 10 years now? So it's like, yeah, your lungs look like this. And he gives him like a trach ring.
Yeah, this was taken out of a 6-year-old man. He's like, oh, and he drops it.
Yeah. He was smoking out of that thing.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna tell you the thing I don't like about this scene. I've never fully loved this scene. And I'll tell you why. Because who actually is this guy? Like, you're not gonna make any dent in the Chuli's gum sales by taking a tactic like this. It is way too much work. It is way too much work for little reward.
He works for Chuli's gum.
I know. And he wants to boost sales.
Right. So he's trying to get people to stop smoking and chew gum
get
instead.
I get it. But what I'm saying is it's too much work for too little reward.
They'll be lifelong chewers is what he's going for. And then those people will be...
I guess, but that's like a fool's errand.
Come on, it's a joke.
I know it's a joke. I understand the joke. I do, but I've always been like, but this is such a dumb way to boost sales.
Everyone that does something in this movie is a dumb way.
Yeah, it's like
that's fair.
Like the guidance counselor with the
I'm just wondering, is he getting paid for what? Like, if this convenience store sells like 10 more packs of gum today, does he get a bonus?
Those people?
Packs of gum are like 10 cents.
Do you remember those
55
people?
cents.
those people that used to go into gas stations and sit by the register and give you a free pack of smokes. Like the promoter people, you had to sign your name, or they would happen in bars.
Well,
get the Crush menthol cigarettes and stuff like
enough.
that. That's what this guy is. He's a promoter.
Well,
that's
he's
his
also
job.
Maybe. All right.
It's the juxtaposition of, instead of him being a cigarette
it's the opposite of it.
It's the opposite. It's turning it on its head. It's instead of it being the illicit thing, it's the.
I'll give it to you.
Well, I mean, there you go, Kevin. You got one.
You
got one from Jason.
You got me back on this one, Kevin. I like the joke. It comes later, but it's like, do you ever notice that all the prices end in 9? It's really freaky, but all the prices end in 5 in that store.
Everything in front of him is a 5. Yeah, it's great.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, because I thought that too, because it's like the cigarettes behind him say $1.95.
There's like $1.95. There's like $1.75. Like they all end in 5. Yep. Yeah. Everything. Yep.
But that is, I mean, that's the old like joke, right? It's like, why does everything always end in 9s and 5s? And
cracked me up though. It's like, and literally everything I'm looking at that you have for sale says 5.
Yeah.
Dante is such a failure. He doesn't even know what a 5 is.
Doesn't even know what his prices are.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it's like Randall just blows right past that. Like he doesn't even respond to anything like with that. He wants to get on to what he wants to talk about.
The cigarette guy, though, is a great way to introduce Veronica, though.
She's a badass.
Because Veronica's awesome. Like, Veronica literally is like, should be exactly what every guy would want in a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of
37 blowjobs.
Except for the fact that she sucked 37 dicks, yes, including Dante, but yes. Which is really funny. Like,
well, at least Randall's not 36.
Right. He's 37.
But it's
Randall's
conversation.
Randall's not 36. Yeah.
He slept with 12 girls, which she's upset. Oh, Jason's slurping.
I was doing the Randall slurping sound. Yeah.
He slept with 12 girls.
Yeah.
Was that an astronomical number? No.
Not really.
She slept with 3 guys, which is like nothing, right? In reality. And they're good. They're like, they're good. But then she brings up the 36 cocks, which is kind of hilarious. And Dante's reaction might be similar to mine. Like, well, that's worse. But I don't know why. Like, why is it worse?
It's funny because she doesn't equate it with
sex.
The 12. Yeah.
Right.
So she's got
she thinks of it like kissing.
She's got this
but the 12 is also,
and of course the Dante is the same thing, right? Maybe even worse. Who knows?
Well, because like she's like, well, you know, because she looks at sex as this kind of sacrosanct thing, right? Like it's
right.
You know, it's
I only have sex with you if I love you, is what she says.
Right. But then, like, you know, but the 37 dicks was like, you know, you go out a couple of times, you start fooling around. And
we went on a date. You know, what do you expect? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying it's like the kiss goodnight.
I mean, it feels like the Jersey way. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, it's the Jersey. It's a Jersey goodnight. Yep.
Yeah. Down on the boardwalk, you know.
Hell, yeah, down on the boardwalk, indeed.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Down on my knees.
Oh my God.
Giving blowjobs to my baby is where I'll be.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for bringing that home, Chuck.
You're welcome. I need a little assist there.
But like, you know, and it's kind of funny where like that whole conversation where it comes to, because like, yes, we meet her by, because shortly after the original guy that the Chuli's gum guy is trying to sell to, soon there's like a whole audience. And then they all start throwing their cigarettes at Dante because he's a death merchant. Yeah, and it's like, well, you know, he's just trying to do his fucking job, and they call him a Nazi over it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And so they start pelting him with the cigarettes, and at least they weren't lit, as Randall says later. But yeah, so she uses like the fire extinguisher to disperse the crowd.
Yep.
And then she, as the Chulies guy is trying to casually walk out, she stops him and kind of basically holds him at fire extinguisher point, right? And he's like, that's when he gives over his card and it's like, yeah, you work for Chulies. And then she kind of hangs out for a little bit. And this is where, like behind the counter, he's left some money up on the counter, which is funny because he says when people think they're being watched, they are less likely to steal money off the counter. So not see the absence of a clerk makes them think they're being watched. So they're being honest with their purchases.
Honesty through paranoia.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing. And he's painting her nails, so he's being like very, he's like being a good boyfriend here. And they're talking about like, how she wants him to go back to school and make something.
It's pretty
of himself.
sweet.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
And so she and he eventually, this is where it gets to the conversation about sex, which is interesting because you would think they would have had this conversation earlier, but at the same time, I don't really necessarily get the point that they've really been dating that long.
Well, I think he says it's only like 6 or
months.
7 months, which is
that's fair.
That's a fair enough amount of time, but maybe not.
They're
enough
just
time to have
beyond
this conversation.
Maybe a few months beyond what typically would be considered that honeymoon period.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like 3 to 5 months, people are like, they don't care.
Yeah.
They're just in love or whatever.
Right.
And then you get down to brass tacks later.
You're new, and then it gets like, well, do I really
now we
wanna
need to kind
stay
of
You
with
start to
you?
question
adjustments.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and you make
Right.
adjustments and
And then honesty comes out.
Right.
And
Yep.
true personality and all that.
and
And there's a
people are
lot of-
farting in bed with each other.
Right.
It's all happening now.
Right. Is this someone I want to fart in bed with? Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so, and the great thing is that the scene is punctuated by 2 other incidents that happen. First is the appearance of Willem, whose
Defoe?
nickname.
Oh,
his
you
name
mean
is
Snowball.
Snowball. Yes.
That's Scott Mosier.
Scott Mosier, yeah.
Scott Mosier, right? Yeah.
So she's like, okay, so, oh my God, if you'd have hovered over the snowballing link, you would just see pictures of sperm.
I know. I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw
that's
that. It wasn't nearly as fun
not-
as what I
yeah.
sent you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
This episode brought to you by Wikipedia.
the fellatio page of Wikipedia in particular. But they, so basically she admits that it's like, oh, his nickname is Snowball because, what he likes is after he climaxes from being
After
sucked off,
fellatio.
he wants it kissed back into him. He likes this done for him. And Dante's like, oh, that's weird. Your friend must have been like it's like, oh, that must have been weird for your friend. She's like, well, it was me. He's like, he's one of the 36. And basically, so he finds out that guy, she's also gone down on. And when she leaves for the day, he's like, try not to suck any dicks on the way out. And there's a guy standing right outside the door, and he just starts following her. He's like, hey, you get back here. That fucking kills me every time.
That's funny.
But we also have met Jay and Silent Bob. Now, Jay and Silent Bob would basically kind of take over the entirety of all of these characters for the next 30 years because they're the through line in all of these View Askew universe stuff.
View Askew universe. Did you make that up?
No, that's
the name
thing.
of it.
That's a thing.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Man, that early View Askew production.
Oh yeah.
Logo scene is weird, man. That's weird.
The clown, the naked clown with the kid.
Yeah. That's fucking weird. What is the story with that? Has anybody, I'm sure Kevin Smith has talked
Well,
about
I
it.
know a naked clown friend.
That's the thing. That's That's the thing about this movie is like there is nothing that can be said about this movie that Kevin Smith hasn't already talked about. The man is like an open book when it comes to everything, really. There is so much content about this movie that I'm sure he's covered it, but I've not been privy to where that logo came from. But it's weird.
Yeah, here we go. The company's logo was originally a smiling clown with a 5 o'clock shadow dressed in women's lingerie and platform pumps named Vulgar, which gained controversy due to its content and was later changed to a cartoon Jay and Silent Bob with movie equipment.
Right.
In 2022, the release of Clerks 3, the logo changed again, this time to Vulgar's face. So basically it was just always, now Vulgar was the name of, didn't they make, wasn't there a movie made called Vulgar
it was Brian Johnson made it.
Yeah.
And it was about the clown. Yeah.
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 So, I mean, it was just always their thing. And then people didn't like it because, you know how people are.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I kind of assumed was that it was Vulgar, but man, that's a weird thing to try and sell a movie with.
I mean, it's a view askew. I mean,
that's true. They were true to themselves from the very start. Yeah.
Literally from the very start. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but it is kind of interesting that Jay and Silent Bob really are the face of this franchise. And everything everything Kevin Smith goes back to Jay and Silent Bob.
What?
Like it's the image, right?
Yeah, I don't even know. I guess you can call it interesting, but they're the most memorable thing from this movie in a lot of ways.
Well, all the best Jay has most of the best lines. Yes.
Yeah.
Like the one-liners, right? Like because when we first meet him, and
there's charisma. There's charisma there that nobody else besides maybe Randall has. And Randall is, let's be honest, it's not the most best acted character.
No, Randall's better than Dante, but
for sure. But Jason Mewes is like the soul. He's the soul in ways of this movie without being any kind of.
I love watching Jason Mewes' performance in this because it is equal parts him being himself
and drugs
and also him trying to remember his lines, and it's
the lines
fucking funny
that are very Kevin Smith.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like there are so many moments in the movie where you could see him trying to search for the next line, and he finds it, and it's like that was the best take. And it's
endearing.
Awesome.
It's endearing.
It's perfect. It's I love it. Well, but I wouldn't go out of my way to say he's like a great actor.
But he got really good.
He got really good. Yeah, I think of all of the guys, he probably grew the most as an actor. Although Dante, Brian O'Halloran?
Yeah.
He got really good in the Clerks sequels. He actually
Clerks 3, he is pretty damn good.
I thought he was really good in 2 as well.
Yeah.
But he definitely grew. Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Whatever.
But yes, he's like searching, especially like that last scene. He's like searching for the line, and it's so good, and I love it. I just want to give him a hug because I love Jason Mewes so much.
Yeah,
and if you ever see him like at a convention or something, because he will do that sort of thing. He is pretty cool. Like he is excited to be there for stuff like that.
That dude's story is just great. Like that, he's been through a lot, and
I hope he's okay now because I hear there's like relapse after relapse still, but. He was at a concert I was at, him and Jason Lee and somebody else, Brian Posehn. We're all like hanging around.
That's a crew. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would think Jason Lee and Jason Mewes would know each other. I don't know how Brian Posehn was like involved. At least I can't form a connection there, but
it makes perfect sense in my brain though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter as far as Clerks is concerned. So I don't have much to add. So I'll talk about concerts I saw characters at.
So the and it's like that's the thing. It's like the whole like just from the start when he shows up, it's like it's Jay and Silent Bob are so freaking interesting. And like Bob doesn't have to say, like Kevin Smith says nothing basically until the very end. That's kind of his thing, right? Like, but like
Right.
but their presence is always so fascinating because like more so than anybody else in this movie, they know who they are. And it's like, I think even doesn't Randall even point that out? It's like, he even knows more about who he is than you do. Yeah. And it's like,
the both of them, I think is what he says. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, he might be a dealer, but he knows his shit better than we do, you know? Yeah. And so, yeah, but, you get the concept of like how much Randall is like such the slacker. He comes in late. I love the whole thing where he's talking to the girl outside the video store and she's like, I want to rent dental school and that's the one I'm here for. And he's like, oh, that's what I came here for. And the whole like, I bet you $20 you don't get to rent it. And he just kind of moves on. He gets to the videos that were dropped off with Dante. He comes in and and then like the whole realization that the girl's been had, but he like lets her. He's like, that's the only person in this movie outside of Dante that he actually treats with any kind of sincere respect.
He gets his $20. I guarantee you he didn't let her rent it.
Maybe. I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that when he like opens the door for her, he's like, that's his gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. And he just lets her do her thing. I don't think he's that jaded, but maybe.
I do like the scene where he's like, reading the paper or whatever, and the one girl's like asking about the two movies. He's like, I don't watch movies.
Yeah,
it's like,
dude, I feel like his lines are on the inside of that newspaper.
Your elaborate attempt to trick me.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
I like the happy scrappy hero pup scene. That's
my god, the reading off all of the porno titles.
See that reminds me of VH1 Video because of all the copious amounts of porno tapes we rented at that place. Oh my god, like that's the reason that place was in business is because we rented 10-1. We rented porn to actual movies.
That's the reason they're out of business too, because 10-1. That's all the movies we had in San Diego.
Well, yeah, that's true. We had a bunch of those, and then also the internet, right?
Yeah, I guess supposedly, if I understand this correctly,
Sodomania slap shots.
That's not a hockey movie.
To my understanding, Jeff Anderson would not do that scene, would not say the names of those movies with the kid there.
Oh,
that's why it like pushes in on him.
Oh, that's sweet, actually.
Yeah, so like he did it all, and then it had the reaction shot, which was totally separate.
Yeah,
yeah, and it like just they looped the dialogue over that. But he didn't do it in front of the kid because he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm in Socks is my favorite one.
Oh my god, it's so good. There's a lot of good ones.
But anyway, but like it's kind of funny because like really like again, it's like there's really not a whole lot really to talk about except for again, this is a movie that's kind of I think it means something different to people of different ages, but I don't know, Chuck, if we show this movie to your kids that they would really get anything out of it.
No, they wouldn't. This is a cis white male movie of a certain age, right? Like it really is of a certain generation. It is it's a time capsule,
right?
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, this is 1994 in a photo book, right?
Yeah,
like it's
a year. Yeah, it's a yearbook. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, because like, I kind of think about things like that. It's like convenience stores outside. I mean, like, okay, gas stations, sure, they still exist. And yes, there are still like convenience elements to gas stations, but like the standalone convenience store, those don't really exist that much anymore. And if they do, it's not operated by just by the typical, register jockey, right?
But I do think if there's anything that's universal in this, it's in that retail clerk mentality.
It's the service sector.
It's the service industry, right? Like I do think that there are things that persist throughout this movie that would be relatable for a certain type of worker.
Yes, my kids would need to be
they need to go to work.
5 to 10 years older to get that. Yeah. And I also think that they're far better coming of age or coming to grips with the reality stories than Clerks, where the comedy is somewhat dated. Like,
sure,
this shit doesn't really happen to people. Like, some of the shit in this movie doesn't really happen to people anymore.
Oh, what? You've never had anybody come into your place at work, use your toilet and die, and then your ex-girlfriend go in there and sit on his dick and
okay, so there are some things. There's some things that still happen to people. I'm sorry, I forgot that small detail. Like, that is hilarious. I think anyone with a sense of humor in their 20s will laugh at that.
Yeah,
right. Like, it's just funny, and it's funny that her reaction to that is like he just sat there. Like, it's so counter, like,
right. It's like, oh my god, it was the best ever. You just didn't do anything.
Yes, it's so
like,
counter.
Well, and then,
it's so
and
counter
then
to like
says,
the male.
Maybe that was Dante.
It's really so good. Counter to what women would probably typically say about men.
But it's not only that. It's also a joke on the fact that Dante is so impotent as a person, right? Yeah. Like that he's so like he is nothing. There is no action to him.
I don't even know if it's that deep. I can get there with you because she's lauding him for it.
Yeah.
Right.
But yet all we know of him is he's like this whiny loser guy kind of.
Well, yeah, my take on it is that he's that bad, right?
Right.
Like, yes.
Like, yeah. I think it's a really not poignant, but an incisive comment from a male writer about the woman's perspective. I think it's funny. Yeah. But then there's also kind of like a kinky aspect to it because we are led to believe that Caitlin is fairly promiscuous. So,
well, if not promiscuous, she is much, much a faster speed than Dante.
I mean,
all I know is the guy in the bathroom.
But I'm not that easy.
And Dante are a dead fuck.
Yeah,
right. Fuck. Yeah, computer says he's a dead fuck. Yeah.
But it's true. Like, where do you come back from that? Like, it sent her into a catatonic state.
Yeah.
But when she wakes up, she's always going to remember the best fuck of her life was from a dead man on a toilet. You can't come back from that. As a man in that relationship, you're never going to live up to a dead man on a toilet.
That's
tough. Yeah. That's a broken relationship. They ain't coming back from that.
Well, and the fact I never noticed until this viewing that Willem gets into the ambulance with her.
Oh yeah.
And he leaves with her. Yeah. He walks by, and then the next time it shows her in the back of the ambulance, he's just kind of sitting there like staring at the ceiling, and then they close the door.
I'm surprised you didn't notice that.
I never noticed that.
It's so weird.
Well, I know he walked by, but I never noticed that he got into the ambulance.
That had to be one of those like spur of the moment, like, oh, this would be funny.
Just get in the
ambulance. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But she well, and that guy is so weird too, because like, I need something to read, because sometimes it takes a long time for me to get it. It's like, can I take one of the porno mags, Sonny?
It's the perfect example of Dante's like inability to draw a line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like at a certain point you think he's just being a nice guy, but then you realize he just hates conflict.
Right.
He has no boundaries. He has no boundaries.
He has no boundaries. He is a pushover. right?
No.
This is a guy who you could railroad over with all ease. You ask him for anything with even a little bit of pushback, and he's going to give it to you. Yeah.
Which is funny. Which is funny because the one person he finally cracks on is Randall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Randall's pushing is good natured.
Yeah.
It's like betterment.
Yeah.
He's trying to help him.
Right.
And
but that's
Dante
the worst.
I guess, yeah.
That's the hardest type of pushback. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I guess it is like I mean, I don't want to say I've never taken issue with people who are trying to help me because everyone has. But it's crazy to me, and it's probably more prevalent than I think that you fight the people who care about you the most.
Well, sure. And I also think this kind of also plays to Dante just has a fear of success. Right? Like he is like
no, he has a fear of failure, not
I don't
success.
think it's a fear of success.
Well,
there's nothing that in his life that that you can even see that is possible success. I agree.
Well,
I think it's still failure. He can be good at his job at the convenience store.
Yes, he's succeeding.
A job any monkey who can push buttons can do.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's what Randall says too.
Yeah. I mean, he has no fear of success.
No, what I'm saying is though, it's like he resists any suggestion that he could be better.
It's
like
because it's a fear of failure.
Yes.
But I also kind of get the impression that if he got better, he would have nobody to put his issues on, right?
No,
like
he doesn't do the things he should do because he has no confidence that he can succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, Jeff, but I do disagree. There's nothing about this movie that leads me to believe that Dante doesn't want to succeed.
He's not Jack Nicholson in 5 Easy Pieces.
But no, what I think
knows that he can do whatever he wants to do.
All of his projection though is so that he scapegoats everything, right? Like I'm not even supposed to be
that's not a fear of success though.
Well, but I think that if he no longer had anybody to scapegoat, he would have to blame himself. And I think that is what he's afraid of.
I don't agree with that.
Because I don't think he doesn't blame himself for anything he doesn't do in this.
But that's not success driven. Like I don't agree with that in principle. No, it doesn't matter who's around. You'll find a tool to blame. You'll find the machine to blame. You'll find the.
That's his flaw, though, right?
But it's a reason to
failure.
Keep him. It's a reason to keep him in the status quo.
Right.
It's a reason to not push himself to be someone better. He is just going to play the martyr,
yes,
like the persecuted, and be comfortable in that role because. That if he is being put upon, then he feels like he is doing more than should be asked of him, and that mentally is enough to sustain him. Meanwhile, he knows that he's wasting his potential, and waste of potential is rarely a fear of success. Waste of potential is a fear of failure.
And that's why he pushes Randall off, because if he thought that he couldn't, or if he thought that he could succeed, Randall would be a breath of fresh air for him. Yeah.
Okay. 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 I'm
not saying you're wrong. I just disagree.
I can get on board with that. I think that there is. I do think he has issues with trying to better himself.
Sure.
Because I think there is an element there where if he bettered himself, then he can't blame somebody else if something doesn't go right.
Well, he also said that.
Right, but you can't blame someone else if you fail either.
He also said he shit himself as a child because he didn't want to disrupt the environment enough to lift the toilet seat. Right. I mean, there is a fear there of any type of disruption of his status quo. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's a fear of success, but I think if he could envision success, he would feel a lot better about making those choices. I think what really
maybe that's where I'm kind of coming
I think what
from,
really stunts him is the fear of what happens when I disrupt the status quo, and how that can go wrong.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think. Okay. I think I see where I was coming from. Whereas, right. Yeah. It's that whole, it's the whole concept of the disruption.
Yeah.
And how he treats when things don't go right in his life and how that,
Yep.
So at one point in this movie, he finds out that one of the illustrious 12 has died.
One of the goodly women who were happy to have relations with me or sex with me or whatever.
Whatever Randall says.
So funny. He calls them goodly women, though.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Like great.
Dante does. It's the best.
And so he says, so he's going to go and he's going to close the store on Saturday at 4:00 to go to the showing because it's one day only. As Randall says, it's like you got one day only, buddy.
one showing only. Yeah.
Yeah. And Randall wants to go. He doesn't know it. He just wants to see the dead body. And so they go, and the whole conversation in the car fucking kills me.
Yeah.
For one specific thing.
I know what it is.
So they're talking about how it was Randall's cousin, was it? Somebody in Randall's family was found dead.
Yeah, it was his cousin.
Okay. Having tried to suck his own dick.
Uh-huh.
And he broke his neck doing it. And to which Randall was like, or to which Dante is like, oh, that's weird. And it's like, yeah, everybody gets curious. You know, it's like Randall's like, what, you haven't ever tried that? Everybody gets curious at some point. And it's like, that must have been really embarrassing. Oh, yeah, my mom or the mom shows up and sees his balls resting on his lips. You know, it's like, then there's quiet for a couple of seconds. And then Dante says, I could never reach. And the camera swings over to Randall, and he's like, reach what? And switches back to Dante, and he's like, you know, my dick. I can never reach my own dick. And switches over to Randall, and he's like, well, I've never done that. Because he says something like, well, like you said, everybody gets curious at some point. Randall says, I've never done that, you weirdo. Camera goes over to Dante, then back to Randall, and that fucking killed the double take with the camera.
And then they get out of the car.
Kills me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because Dante's just looking at Randall, it's like, motherfucker, I just had to admit something.
There were so many people around this time that tried to pass that story, the neck breaking, dick sucking stories.
Great urban legend.
Like, have you never seen Clerks? Come on.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Stop it with this bullshit.
Yeah.
I love that scene from the filmmaking aspect of it. This is a director in the back seat who only has one camera.
Yeah.
Right? He has a $27,000 budget. This is a guy who enrolled at the new school so he could get a student ID, so he could get discount Kodak stock to load his rented 35 millimeter camera. And he's sitting in the back seat, and he's got no choice but to shoot it this way.
Yeah.
The swinging camera back
perfect.
and forth, and it's perfect.
It's like we're sitting there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're going to the showing too. Yeah,
like
and it's so great.
If you look at which is fascinating because if you look at Reservoir Dogs and you look at a very similar scene when they're all in the car and they're talking about Pam Grier. Yeah. I think you've got not Quentin Tarantino. You've got Chris Penn,
Buscemi.
Is it Buscemi? It might be Buscemi and Tim Roth all in the car.
Yeah.
And they're talking about Pam Grier, and it's like there are obviously multiple cameras here. This is a guy who is able to find money and make a movie. And he hit it at Sundance, and so did Kevin Smith with like vastly different budgets. Like both very independent. But man, what a scrappy movie Clerks is. Like it's inspiring. Like it is truly like one of those movies that is the poster child for you can do this yourself. You can make your own movie.
This is Lloyd Kaufman style, make your own damn movie.
Yeah.
Just make it. Just shoot your movie.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, however it takes. If you get it and you have a finished project or product, then you have something.
Yeah.
And
I
now
mean, this is what Joe
years,
Bob's been saying for like
exactly.
Yeah.
And 30 years later, how many of these movies on Tubi are there with the same idea? Maybe not as good of an idea, but the same idea, right?
Yeah. 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 It's fair. Oof,
it's the children of Clerks, right? It's the children of trauma.
Yeah.
You know, it's that concept, right? And it's like, yeah, I mean, like Lloyd Kaufman and Kevin Smith are the granddaddies, you know, that have created what we have now today in the make your own damn movie line.
It's interesting. Like this movie, it was purchased by Miramax for $227,000. On a $27,000 budget, and it was very deliberate. They were like they want to offer $200,000, but I'm going to get $227,000 because he wanted to like get the budget into the picture. What ended up happening is when they took it on, I forget what they did. I think they went on like a film tour with it. They might have gone to Cannes to promote it, but there were the typical Miramax thing where they would take a movie that they just purchased. They would spend like $2 million to try to make $4 million, right? And that sucked. They split the production cost 4 ways, and 2 of the ways were Kevin and Scott Mosier. And so it took all the profit that they had on the sale of this movie away. They made no money on this movie other than they could pay back the deferrals for the cast and crew.
Yeah.
Right. But Kevin Smith was like, I can't believe we even got an opportunity to pay back the deferrals. He looked at Scott Mosier and was like, I can't believe we can pay everyone who worked on this movie. I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
They were so happy that they could just break even. Right. And then of course, you know, the rest was history. They were baked in forever. The whole career was born here. So
yeah.
So that's the other thing. Like your first movie doesn't have to be the movie that makes a bunch of money. Your first movie could be the movie that launches a career, and that's
proof of
concept.
Kevin Smith. Proof of concept, right?
And Kevin Smith said he said he didn't see one cent of profit on Clerks until 2001.
You know, it's yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, it's so funny because what happened after this? Well, wait a minute. First, before we talk about that, the next thing that ends up happening in this scene when they get to the fucking showing and then like they're in there for 4 minutes and then they have to take off running because Randall knocked over the fucking casket and her body fell out. It's like,
my God.
And he's like, well, what? It's like, well, I don't know. She can't, you know, nothing worse can happen to her. She's already dead. It's like her body fell out of the casket.
Yeah, but, it's wild.
Yeah, that is wild. But yeah, so like basically from here, it goes to, you know, at one point, Veronica comes in, brings him dinner because she had a class that didn't, a class that got canceled. So she decided to go home, bring him lasagna. She's like the perfect, like Jason said, she's kind of the perfect girlfriend, right? She's always thinking about him. Even if she's taking care of her stuff, she's always thinking about him. And then, it's like before the whole casket dumping thing, there was the attempt to play the hockey game. Part of the reason why Dante did accept going in and working was that, he would be able to get to his 2:00 game they decide, well, let's play this on the roof, that looked fun. Except for if you got, I guess, a little bit too close to the edge, you could get body
Fun
checked.
and dangerous at the same time.
But if you're far enough from the edge, you could play hockey. You could play a little street hockey on top of a roof, and it'll look fun. But yeah, if you got body checked over the edge. But the guy who's like wants to buy a pack of smokes, and he's like, even he like rips into Dante, and it's like, this guy can't even fucking pass.
Don't pass it to that guy. He sucks.
And so he has him come into, it's like, oh, if you think you're so fucking good, why don't you? There's a stick over there. This guy's in, and he fucking just he bum rushes Dante, gets the ball, and then just shoots it over the edge of the building. It goes into so like even that's ruined. Like everything sucks. Yeah,
it would be really shitty though. You probably talked about this while I was peeing, but it would be really shitty to play hockey on a roof because you're going to lose so many balls.
Well, I said it looked fun up there, but I said also if you get a little too close to the edge, it's scary.
Jeff is Mr. Risk though. He likes taking risks in life.
Yeah, I do, man. I do. Risk is my business. But no, But yeah, so like all of that stuff happened. Then they went to the showing, but later the big thing that they discover, and I think it's actually Randall that discovers it in the paper, the announcement that Caitlin Bree is going to marry an Asian design major.
Yeah.
To which somebody later says an Asian drum major. Which for the longest time, I always thought it's like, it's a design major who happens to be Asian. No, it's just an Asian design major.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that was for the longest time back when I first saw this, like, why does it matter if he's Asian or not? It's like, it's just a funny thing to say.
Asian
right?
design. Yeah.
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 So here's the crux, because so much happens that doesn't happen that we don't need to talk about. Right.
Right.
Caitlin is Dante's girlfriend of 7 years. She cheated on him a lot.
8.5 times or 7.5 times or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Because one of them was him because he was in a bed and she thought he was someone else. He is now moved on to Veronica, but he's still pining for her, as was
they
mentioned
still talk.
earlier.
They still talk, and
I'm gonna get there. Get there. But yes, he has been carrying on like a civil adult kind of conversation with Caitlin since she's been gone. But then he, as Randall pointed out to him in the paper, she is getting married. Dante is questioning his relationship with Veronica because of 36, 37 dicks, and because he's been pining for Caitlin as well. There is a scene, I can't remember what it. Okay, yeah. So the muscle building guy and another girl come into the store, as well as a state official who gives Dante a $500 fine for cigarettes that Randall sold to a 4-year-old girl
because he wasn't even looking.
Yeah, he wasn't even looking.
But then he later says, like, that little girl?
Yeah, like he doesn't fucking know.
He doesn't fucking care.
But the muscle dude who's making fun of Dante's manhood and saying you need to work out, you're out of shape, which is probably true, leaves with this other girl. And Dante turns around and he's like, Caitlin. So Caitlin has shown up in town.
By the way, those two characters are actually related to or are important in the lore of the other characters in later movies. Because the girl,
they have the same last names or something.
No, the guy is Rick Darris, who is mentioned multiple times throughout the rest, and I think he's mentioned mostly in I think it's Mallrats.
I think so, yeah.
And the girl is Alyssa Jones's sister. Alyssa Jones is Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
Main girl in Chasing Amy. Yeah.
Interesting. So what we find out after this is that Caitlin Caitlin's mom has put this
She jumped the gun.
announcement in the paper. Caitlin is not really sold on marrying this guy. He's a nice guy, but she told him she needed more time. And the mom is like, fuck it, I'm going to put this announcement in the paper. But Caitlin's like, I want to give Dante another chance. And there's kind of a cute scene with them talking about this stuff. And Dante's like, well, I'm going to go home and get ready. Caitlin leaves for something else. She comes back. And Dante's not there. She's like, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And Randall's like, the
Randall's like-
light's not fucking on back there, but good luck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the
She's
light
like, I'm
doesn't
not
work.
afraid. I'm not afraid of the dark. I can do this. The way this is her best piece of acting when she comes out and is like,
Yeah, she's like playing with her time.
excited. Yeah, excited that she just had sex and like something good happened back there.
You're
Well, she
right,
is-
because Dante has now come in, and both Dante and Randall are watching her come out, and it's like, well, what the fuck's going on there?
Man, what the fuck's going on? Well, she had sex with the fucking dead guy.
With the guy who
He was
wanted
a fucking dead guy. Absolutely.
he was a fucking dead guy, and he wanted the magazine with the bigger jugs.
Yeah, I like the
Yes, he
big. I
did.
like the big titties.
Yeah.
The titties are bigger in here.
Yeah.
But that sends Caitlin into catatonia. She gets in the ambulance as we spoke about with Snowball, and they drive away. Randall takes it upon himself to break up with Veronica because he's trying to do Dante a favor.
Yeah, because he knows that Dante will not speak to her directly.
Right.
Right. He's afraid to lift the toilet seat to take a shit.
Right.
Like, I'll lift the
Because he
toilet
doesn't
seat
wanna
for you,
hurt her.
buddy, and I'll take the shit.
Right. It's like it's the total like cop out of I don't want to hurt the person. It's like, dude, it's gonna be far worse if you don't.
Well, that is the cop out because that's
Right.
not why he won't tell her. It's because he's a fucking
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
But in that time, who was talking to Dante? This I can't remember. Somebody was talking to Dante about his relationships and how good. Oh, it was,
Well, it's
It's
when
Jay
Jay
and
and
Silent
Silent
Bob.
Bob come in.
yeah, because Jay comes in. It's like it's time for close up, and it's like
And
I need
Silent
to.
Bob does his thing. He breaks his silence to give the sage words of wisdom, as he does.
Right. He gives the epiphany moment, which was,
Right.
it's like there are many fine women in the world, but not all of them will bring you lasagna.
Most of them will cheat
Will
on
just
you.
cheat on
But not all of them will bring you lasagna. Yep.
Yeah. And to which he realizes, I've been an idiot my whole, this whole
I
time.
love her.
I
He
love
says,
her.
I love her.
Yeah. But at this point, it's too late because because Randall's already nuked that relationship for him. But again, this is really Dante's fault anyway,
Yeah.
right? Because he's been
Yeah.
waffling on this. It's like,
doesn't-
shit or
he
get off the
doesn't-
pot.
He doesn't deserve her at this
Right.
point. No.
And while and it's too late now, and it's like, yeah, Silent Bob's right, but at the same time, it's too late,
It's
So-
a classic Twilight Zone ending. You get no one. You get nothing.
You get nothing.
Oh, Gene Wilder just showed up.
You get
Yeah,
nothing.
Gene Wilder is
It's a
hanging out.
classic Willy Wonka ending.
Yeah,
Good day, sir.
he comes dancing into the place, and the whole thing turns the color, and it's like, the whole thing.
Even the snozberries taste like snozberries.
Yeah, exactly. So he, it's like, and then he tells Veronica, he's trying to tell Veronica that he's done with the whole Caitlin Bree thing. He loves her. He's ready to go for it. She's throwing things at him. She's like, fuck you. It's like, this is garbage. It's like what you've done is irreparable at this point. Well, she leaves, and then Dante comes in at closing time, and then he just comes in, or Randall comes in, and Dante just grabs him by the throat, which I always thought was hilarious too, because it's like, he's just standing right there, and he comes in off frame and grabs him. It's great. It's a nice little comedy scene. Shot. And they fight and they wrestle, and that's when Dante finally is like, basically tells him, it's like, dude. Yeah, it's like you need to get your shit in line here. Basically, it's like, I may be an asshole, or that guy out there may be a dealer, but we it's like we take responsibility for who we are and what we are. You need to do this too. Is the gist?
Yeah, but Dante does the whole not even supposed to be here anymore.
And he's like, that's where he's like, that's your fucking, it's like you're always,
that's what Randall has his breaking point with Dante. Yeah.
So
they basically. Well, go ahead, Chuck.
I was just gonna say Randall like gives him a little diatribe and leaves. But then we come back and they're both in the shop again, right? Like kind of making up.
Well, they're cleaning the place up.
They clean up, yeah.
Yeah, they're cleaning the place up after the fight, and they talk about getting breakfast, I think, in the morning or dinner the next night, something like that. Yeah,
breakfast in the morning, I think.
Because Dante does say, if this series doesn't continue and whatever, he's like, I'm going to go see Veronica, and I need to clear some shit up with Caitlin, or vice versa. I need to go see Caitlin.
I'm going to go see Caitlin and clear everything up with Veronica.
Yeah. Right. So in the world of just this movie, I feel like Veronica and him are going to have another lasagna and things are going to be okay. But in reality,
it takes about 30 years for them to have the moment.
It does. Yeah.
That's a good scene. That's a good scene in Clerks 3.
In Clerks 3, yeah, it's a good scene. Yeah.
Because he becomes essentially 37 and like, I don't know, 45.
But this movie ends in kind of a cute way with these two friends like cleaning up the mess that they both have kind of made in whatever way they made it, right? Yeah. They're both semi-responsible for the mess. Yeah. And it's not the literal mess, it's the mess, right? What's interesting about this, and people have talked about this ad nauseum, so I have nothing to add to it really, is that Dante was supposed to die.
Yeah.
In this movie. What I think is interesting about that, and maybe people have brought this up, but early in the movie, Dante says that's what life is, a series of down endings.
Yeah, because he's talking about Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
There is foreshadowing to what was supposed to happen. But
I don't think that was even in the original theatrical cut.
No, it was not.
But it was shot. Yeah, it was shot for sure. I think it was a wise choice on Kevin's part.
Like, he says some producer, somebody told him you don't need this.
It might have been, yeah, it's possible. It might have been the guy they hired to shop it around, because Kevin Smith always called them the 5 families. Like the 5 big independent film studios, and they were Sony, Fine Line, October, Goldwyn, and Miramax. And so that might have been
Sony an independent.
Well, because at that time they didn't own Columbia.
They had Sony Classic Pictures.
Picture Classics.
Sony Picture Classics. It was one of the 5 big independent like distribution studios.
Yeah, because I'm not sure. Because Searchlight would have just been getting started around this time.
Yeah. That's Fox, right?
Yeah. Fox Searchlight had just gotten started like around this time, so they probably would not have been a major. They are now, but they weren't then. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, maybe that could be. I don't think that's the cut that was shown at Sundance.
So I don't think it ever made it to a theater.
But yeah, it could very well be. I know that Kevin Smith was like shocked that he got into Sundance, like floored that he got into Sundance. He was like, somebody just told me I should submit it, but he was like, that's the place where like Sex Lies of Videotape goes. It's not a place Clerks goes. He had no illusions of getting in, but he did, and it changes his life.
And other people's.
Yeah, it did. And when this film sold, he went back and was still working at the Quick Stop.
Yeah.
Like someone at Miramax, maybe it was Harvey, even was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I got a shift tomorrow at the Quick Stop." And he didn't believe him. It's like, is that a joke? It's like, you need to quit your job. We need you to promote the film.
insanely interesting to me, though, because how would you know you made it? Right? Unless somebody told you. He hadn't gotten a check yet.
Told. Yeah.
He hadn't gotten a check yet telling him you're rich.
He didn't really make any money on the movie. Yeah.
Right. But now he's got probably like, what do they even call it? An advance on his next film.
Oh, yeah.
Like, soon
he was
thereafter.
he was in one of the 5 families at that point. He was an asset. So yeah, he was going to be taken care of.
Well, this is the
taken care of.
Yeah,
sorry, we watched Pulp Fiction last week, everybody.
So that does bring up a good point, because shortly after Clerks was released, Universal's like, we want this guy to make a movie. Yeah. Now, it's always been said that Universal was run by somebody who had really, really strange necessities in a movie. They wanted it to be R-rated. Yeah. So you can do all you want with language. You can say the most depraved shit. Doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
No nudity, period.
Yeah.
The head of Universal was like like almost puritanical about nudity.
Was this Mallrats?
Yeah, this is Mallrats.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, well, I guess that's fine. It's like, not, I mean, he did throw in the one little real brief scene of Joey Lauren Adams trying on the top and Silent Bob swinging in. But the thing is, it's like, I think he said that what they kept saying is, we want another Animal House.
Yeah.
That's the vibe we want. We want Animal House.
They didn't get it. They didn't get him. They didn't get the.
Well, but the thing is that Animal House has nudity in it.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, you don't want that. So it's like he kept getting this confused message. Now, Universal notoriously didn't understand what they were buying at this time, because they also bought the movie rights to Mystery Science Theater, the movie, and they tried desperately to control what that was going to be. And they ended up not understanding either Kevin Smith or Mystery Science Theater. And what you get out of it are two companies that were very, very disappointed with their entire experience working with a major studio.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Smith could not really do everything he wanted to do and couldn't promote it the way he wanted. They just wanted something zany and Animal House like, and the best he could do was what he could do with Mallrats.
Was a fat karate punch. He went back to Miramax, and he basically said, "Hey, I want to come home." Yeah. Like, he's like, I made a mistake going to a major. You all treated me right. Can I come home? And of course, they're like, yeah, there's money to be made. And that's how Chasing Amy happened.
And Chasing Amy is his best of the bunch.
Yeah.
But I will still say that Mallrats is hilarious. It's probably my favorite of his. I think it's his funniest.
It's the funniest romp for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, this one is the most thought provoking as far as the comedy. And Chasing Amy is just flat out the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
But I was saying, it's like Universal was desperate to buy in to these new concepts and these different kind of oddball concepts, but had no concept of what they were getting. Somebody like,
well, you can't bring in oddball and then try to control it.
Well, exactly. But like, they're still operating with the studio system, right? So it's like, it's like somebody tells them that these Mystery Science Theater guys or this Kevin Smith guy is funny, and this is what young people are going to see. And then the studio head says, okay, buy something from them. And then when the studio head is seeing the dailies, they're like, I don't understand this. We gotta put the clamps on, and it's like, and this sort of thing happened even with like George Lucas with Star Wars, where 20th Century Fox made the deal to distribute it, and then they tried to say, we don't understand what you're doing.
This shit happened with the fucking Godfather.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's the tale as old as time in terms of that is concerned. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of funny. I have not seen every one of Kevin Smith's movies. I've not seen Tusk. I've not seen Red State.
Oh,
I've seen
Red
both
State
of those.
is good. Tusk
Red State was
wild.
fun.
Tusk is
State is
wild. I like Red State a lot.
Red State's probably more poignant today than it was when I saw it.
That's probably true, Chuck. Yeah, I'd like to revisit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen, and I've not seen Zack and Miri or Yoga Hosers.
I never saw
know what
Yoga Hosers.
is.
I started Yoga Hosers, and I was like, nope. I noped out of it.
But
I never saw Cop Out.
I've seen Cop Out.
That's a cop out.
But no, I mean, like
Kilroy was here. What's that?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Anthology film. He did a segment. Never saw that.
But no, of the View Askew movies that are like the Jay and Silent Bob films, the Jersey, well, it used to be called the Jersey Trilogy, but there's like 8 movies now. Clerks is always going to be the special one in my heart because it's like that was the first, that was the one that hit deep, right? Like this is, I'm kind of seeing myself here. I'm seeing the slacker in me. Mallrats, like I said, is always the funniest. Chasing Amy is the one that I think is the best. And I think that Chasing Amy, even though it does have things that today people might not agree with in terms of like how that relationship goes.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think it opened the door to be able to think about these types of people with this lifestyle.
I think it was it's not a lifestyle. It's an earnest pursuit of understanding.
Right, exactly. It's the understanding of a community, right?
Yeah.
And that there are also striations in that community too, right?
Yeah.
It's not just it's not just gay or straight.
Right.
And bi doesn't necessarily even mean anything either. It's more to it than that. And these are real people.
Uh-huh. It was the nuclear cinema that white men needed in 1997. Yeah. Right? It was definitely a bridge. Regardless of what it got wrong, it got a lot right.
Exactly.
Regardless of who crossed it, because probably not a ton of people did. The bridge. I mean,
oh, sure, but I don't know.
I mean, and to a certain extent, it's kind of doing what Clerks was doing, right? Like Clerks is trying to shake up a certain group of people too, right? And it's like saying, it's like there is value in not being a slacker, but there's also value in living your life your way, right? Or there is a value to being a Randall, much like that there is a desire to be to a certain extent Dante in some situations, right?
And I mean, Chasing Amy was his biggest hit to date.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge hit.
Until Jay and Silent Bob reboot, Dogma was always my least favorite. I just didn't get it quite the same way.
Dogma just hit perfectly for me.
Well, yeah,
being raised Catholic, it was like I watched that movie every day on Easter for years.
Yeah. I really like Dogma, and I'm not Catholic, but
it's just, man, yeah, it just, I got that on so many levels of like a suffering childhood of Catholicism. Yeah.
Yeah, and my girlfriend at the time was also raised Catholic, so she obviously liked it a lot too. But for me, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't dislike it, but it was by far and away my least favorite.
Scarlet is Cardinal Glick.
Oh my God, yeah. But like, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is, watching that kind of more recently, it's like, boy, that really is pretty damn, kind of immature, but it's also got a lot of really funny stuff in it.
Yeah.
Why are we going through every Kevin Smith movie?
Because we're because I don't see us doing any of these.
Chuck's had enough.
I guess so.
I haven't had enough. I'm just okay. If we're not doing them, and you want to comment on them, I just didn't understand
exactly what I'm doing.
I like how if you go
said
to
that, that's why I asked.
I like how if you go to the Dogma film Wikipedia page, it says, this article is about the 1999 film for the avant-garde filmmaking movement. See Dogma 95.
Oh my God.
That would probably tickle Kevin Smith to no end if he were to see that. That is so fucking funny. That Dogma 95 is hyperlinked from the Dogma
And Lars von
Wikipedia
Trier.
page. Yeah, it was Lars von Trier, yeah. Thomas Vinterberg, yeah. It had this whole like manifesto of like realism. It was like a super pretentious film movement that went nowhere.
And now it's being linked to something where at one point one of these angels drops his pants and shows that he has no cock.
I love it. I love the
fantastic.
dichotomy. It's absolutely fucking hilarious. Yep.
So I think we're done here. Chuck wants to move on. So
I'm sorry. I was just curious.
That's all right. So
don't ever bring up another Kevin Smith movie around me.
we didn't even talk about Clerks 2 or Clerks 3. So anyway, doesn't matter. Next week, next Wednesday, we've got George Romero's Night Riders. You can find out more information about that at filmseizure.com. And you can also find where you can follow us, where you can subscribe to the show and everything like that. And then next Monday, also on filmseizure.com, new episode of Monster Mondays, which is Frankenstein versus Baragon. I've already actually done the pseudo sequel to that movie on Monster Mondays. That was War of the Gargantuas. But kind of a weirdo, we're going to make a gigantic Frankenstein. So yeah, that is also at filmseizure.com on Monday afternoon, the 19th. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I have Ninja in the Claws of the CIA. That is a wild movie, man.
It is.
Oh boy. That's a fun one. Anyway, that you can find at Film Seizure or at bmovieanima.com this upcoming Friday, the 16th. All right. So with that, I think we are done here. Next week, I've never seen Night Riders. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I know. That's kind of why I put it on, is because I want you to watch it. Because it's like one of those deep cut Romeros that is so just nice. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's a guy on a motorcycle with a suit of armor.
Yeah, we got some
amazing.
We got some medieval times. We got medieval times meets motorcycles. Yeah.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I will dig it. I'm sure.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So next week we will be back here for that. Until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm launching a Kevin Smith podcast and Jeff almost ruined it.
And I am Jason Oliver, and I'll fuck anything that moves.